Now we will be solving the workbook question answers from The Glove and the Lions. So first let us have a look at the extract. King Francis was a hearty king and loved a royal sport. So from there to valor and love and a king above and the royal beasts below. So now let us see the first part. Where was King Francis? Why was he there? Which characteristic of King Francis are described in the first stanza? So when a question comes like this, you have to write each answer in a different paragraph. And whenever you are writing the first part of any answer, you have to mention from which poem it has been taken and the name of the poet. So, the first question says, where was King Francis? So, the quoted lines have been taken from The Glove and the Lions by Leigh Hunt. King Francis was sitting above the benches filled by the nobles and the ladies. So whenever you are quoting from the text, see, I have used double quotes. So even when you are quoting a word, a phrase, always use double quotes. And when you are mentioning the name of the poem, that will be within single quote. So, The Glove and the Lions, you will have to mention that within single quote. And when you are quoting words from the poem like above, benches, nobles, ladies, then you will use double quotes. So now we know where was King Francis. Then the question says, why was he there? So King Francis was sitting above because he had organized a royal sport. He sat there to observe the lions wild, fighting in the pit. Which characteristic of King Francis are described in the first stanza? So in the first stanza, we come to know that King Francis was a hearty king. He was not only cheerful but also gamesome. Coming to the second part. Who all were present in the audience beside King Francis? Who sighed for whom? What is suggested by the phrase, the ladies in their pride? So the first part. Who all were present in the audience beside King Francis? The nobles and the ladies along with the Count de Lorge and his love were present in the audience besides King Francis. Who sighed for whom? The Count de Lorge sighed for his beauteous, lively dame who accompanied him to see that crowning show. Now the third half. What is suggested by the phrase, the ladies in their pride? The phrase, the ladies in their pride, suggests the vanity among the ladies. Equating the pride of the ladies with that of the royal beasts, the speaker depicts the egoism in the ladies to attain great glory. The third part. What is it referred to as a gallant thing? So, the witnessing of the royal sport is referred to as a gallant thing. And why is it so? It was a gallant thing to watch the lions wild fight because it required courage to see them give blows like beams and roll on one another on the court. The roar and bloody foam evoked by the occasion required valor among the audience. Now the fourth part. Explain in your own words the last line of the given extract. That is, valor and love and the king above and the royal beasts below. So in the last line of the given extract, the speaker draws a visual imagery of the setting of the poem. The speaker says that while the royal beasts fought in the pit, King Francis sat above in an elevated stage away from the arena. Valor and love represent the nobles and the ladies present in the audience. Now the fifth part says, explain briefly how this poem is a ballad. This poem is a ballad because of its narrative structure. Not only is the poem composed in rhyming couplets that adds on to the musicality, but also the poem is successful in telling a love story. So you must know what a ballad is. You see, a ballad is a kind of poem that is used to tell a story. It is a narrative poem that usually speaks about love. So in this poem, you see the love story between Count de Lorge and his beloved. So that is why it is a ballad. It has a lyricality, a musicality. Now we come to the second question. So let us have a look at the extract first. Ramped and rode the lions with horrid laughing jaws. So from there till said Francis then, faith, gentlemen, we are better here than there. So the first part. Where were the lions? Who all were watching them? Explain briefly the lions' fight as described in the first line of the extract. So where were the lions? So again, because this is the first part of the question, we will mention the name of the poem and the name of the poet. So the quoted lines have been taken from The Glove and the Lions by Leigh Hunt. The lions wild were in the pit. Who all were watching them? The nobles and the ladies, along with the Count de Lorge and his beloved, were watching the royal beasts. King Francis, ladies, lovers, watched the lions. Then explain briefly the lions' fight as described in the first line of the extract. Now, because they have mentioned first line of the extract, you have to define only the first line. You cannot write anything extra from the other lines. So, what does the first line say? Speeding violently, the wild lions roared with frightful laughing jaws. The alliteration and paradox used in the line intensifies the revolting show. So you see, you have an alliteration there, ramped and rode, that is the alliteration, and the paradox is horrid laughing, because horrid and laughing, they are opposite words lying side by side. That is why it is an example of a paradox. Now coming to the second part of the question. How can you say that the fight between the two lions was quite ferocious and brutal? So, the lions violently roared and choked each other. They not only bit and glared at each other, but also satisfied their might with blows like beams and horrid laughing jaws. Rolling on one another, the lions raised the sand and mane in the pit, as well as spread their bloody foam above the bars. This proves that the show was ferocious, brutal, and wild. Now, the third part. Point out the literary devices used in this extract. The phrases ramped and rode, wind went with, and with wallowing are examples of alliterations. Alliteration is a figure of speech where two words lie side by side and begin with the same letter. The phrase horrid laughing is an example of a paradox. Paradox is the usage of two contradictory terms. Despite being fearful, the lions seemed to laugh. They seemed to mock each other as they were fighting. The phrase blows like beams is a simile. A simile is used to compare different kinds of things using the expression as and like. Here, the strikes of the lions are compared to rays of light. So here you see, when the question comes that you have to point out the literary device, you not only point out the literary device but also explain why is it so. Like in the first half C, we have said that it is an alliteration. Then you have to tell what is an alliteration and why the phrases that you have chosen is an example of an alliteration. So you have to justify whatever you are writing. Now the fourth part. What did King Francis tell the audience? What is revealed about the king's remark? King Francis told the audience that they were safe behind the pit's bars than in the pit where the royal beasts fought. The king's remark proves that though King Francis was gamesome, he was a coward. He was afraid, he was fearful. Like D. Lorge's love, he was gallant enough to set a task among the lions to attain great glory. Now the fifth part. Explain the imagery used in this extract. Leigh Hunt has used both visual and auditory imagery in this extract. While the roar and horrid laughing jaws contribute to the auditory imagery, the rolling and striking of the royal beasts to raise the sand and mane in the pit portrays the visual imagery. Now coming to the third question. So let us have a look at the quotation, the extract. D. Lorge's love o'erheard the king. From there to I'll drop my glove to prove his love. Great glory will be mine. So the first part of the question. What did D. Lorge's lover overhear the king say? What did she think about the king? So the quoted lines have been taken from The Glove and the Lions by Leigh Hunt. D. Lorge's lover overheard King Francis say that they were safe in the benches than in the pit where the lions fought. She thought that the king was a coward who lacked the stereotypical masculine traits. Traits of what? Traits of courage. Second part. How has the speaker described D. Lorge's beloved? Why has she been described as always seem the same? So the first half first. The speaker described Lorge's beloved as a beauteous, lively damsel. She had attractive, smiling lips and sharp, bright eyes. She was gallant and in her pride. And why was she always seem the same? She has been described as always seemed the same because she was always energetic and full of life. She could animate her features all the time. Now the third part. What did she think about Lorge? What was she sure about? So what did she think about Lorge? Lorge's lover thought that Lorge was brave enough to prove King Francis wrong. She thought that the Count was courageous to face the lions wild in the pit. And what was she sure about? She was sure that Lorge could perform wondrous things to impress her and prove his love for her. Now the fourth part. What idea struck her? What was her real intention in implementing her idea? So what idea struck her? In the divine occasion, Lorge's beloved decided to test Lorge's love for her. The idea of dropping her glove in the pit where the royal beasts fought struck her. She decided to challenge Lorge by asking him to fetch her glove from the arena where the lions fought. And then what was her real intention? Her real intention in implementing her idea was to attain great glory. She was one of the ladies in their pride who craved for fame and attention. Now the last part. Explain briefly the character traits of Lorge's lover as revealed in this extract. From the quoted extract, we may conclude that Lorge's lover was excessively proud and heartless. Despite being beautiful, lively dame, she craved for fame and glory. Her vanity and pretentious love is highlighted when she decides to engage Lorge in a perpetual task. Her egoism and insensitive nature directs her to ask the king lady's lovers to look on her. Look on means to pay attention. Now coming to the last question. So the extract is, she dropped her glove to prove his love, then looked at him from there to the end of the poem. No love, quoth he, but vanity sets love a task like that. So the first part says, who is she referred to? Where did she drop her glove? And why did she do so? So who is she? The quoted lines have been taken from Leigh Hunt's poem, The Glove and the Lions. She, in the extract, refers to the Count Lorge's beloved. Where did she drop her glove? She dropped her glove in the pit, where the lions wild put up a crowning show. And why did she do so? Believing that the Count was as brave as can be, Lorge's love engaged him in a perpetual task to show his love for her. Her real intention was to attain great glory in the divine occasion. Now the second part. Why did she look at him and smile? What does this reveal about her? So Lorge's love looked at him and smiled to suggest that Lorge would do what she wanted him to do. It indicates that Lorge would take up the challenge of fetching the glove from the pit to show his love for her. Her smile reveals that she was extremely heartless and insensitive. She was one of the ladies in their pride who was guided by egoism and great glory. She craved for attention and her love was pretentious. Now the third part. How did Lorge react to her smile? What forced him to do so? Lorge accepted the task set by his beloved by bowing down as a reaction to her smile. And what forced him to do so? The stereotyping of men in the society forced him to do so. In order to safeguard his masculine traits of being brave and gallant, Lorge engaged himself in a deadly task. Moreover, he sighed for her love. Now coming to the fourth part. How did Lorge come back from the pit unharmed? How did he react when he came back? How did King Francis react to it? So how did Lorge come back from the pit unharmed? No sooner did Lorge jump into the pit among the lions wild to get the glove than he regained his place in the benches. The retreat was so quick that he returned unharmed. And how did he react when he came back? After regaining his place beside his beloved, Lorge threw the glove in the lady's face to show that his annoyance for her vanity. And how did King Francis react to it? King Francis appreciated the Count's reaction. He rose from where he sat and declared that only vanity could devise a task like that. Now the last part of the question. Explain briefly the theme of the poem. So, The Glove and the Lions by Leigh Hunt is a mock heroic poem that seems to be making a statement against the stereotyping of men as brave beings who are engaged in executing wondrous things to show their love. Hunt mocks how the bravery and chivalry of man is needed to bring great glory among the ladies in their pride. He concludes the poem projecting the idea that vanity has no place in love and that love can alter one's action. So with this, we have completed all the questions there in the workbook, and I have given the explanation of this poem in another video, so you may check that as well, and you can check the playlist for other explanations and question answers. So till then, thank you. Ta-ta.